if someone wants to continue with that industrialized model, but they're using all these herbicides and pesticides and it's destroying the soil in some way, what can be done to correct that? Or are we on a path that we can't get off of where we're not going to have good topsoil anymore?
We're definitely on a path where we're not going to have good topsoil anymore.
Definitely.
No, there's no question about that.
So what happens when that takes place?
We'll become far less productive as an agricultural industry. And can I go back?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Go wherever you want, sir.
All right.
Have you done a podcast before?
Not like this.
No. Well, this is the best part about it is you can go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, have you ever heard of Savory Institute?
No, I have not.
All right, you ought to look at it.
Savory Institute.
It's not like savory food. It's a guy named Alan Savory. He's a farmer from Zimbabwe who is touted as being the father of regenerative land management, or pasture and range management. And Savory International is a group that is devoted to that, and my farm is a Savory hub. I actually went to Zimbabwe and took my training under Alan Savory some years ago in regenerative land management.
And this is after years and years of industrial farming.
Yeah.
You still needed to take courses? What did you need to learn there?
How to completely rethink about it. So, and we can talk more about that, but the main point I want to make is in the Savory thought process, we talk about the difference in a complex system and a complicated system. So this microphone thing we're working on here is a very complicated system, and this computer this young man is working on over here is a very complicated system. And to me, what that means is there's a lot of shit going on to make it work. And when one component quits working, it don't work no more. And reductionist science works great on those very linear, complicated systems. A factory is kind of the ultimate complicated system, very linear and very lends itself to scale, which lends itself to efficiency. So, and that is the model that my dad's generation and later my generation applied to agriculture. All right, let's talk about agriculture. My farm, like your body, is a very complex living system. There's a lot going on in both of them to make it work. But if one component quits, everything kind of morphs and it keeps working, right? So in that scenario, it doesn't lend itself to reductive science as well because of the unintended consequences, that morphing we're talking about. Living systems are complex systems. Reductive science easily becomes misapplied to those systems because they have those unintended consequences that are not easily recognizable. We talked about some of them.
Right.
Somebody taking steroids or me using fertilizer and pesticides on my land. Reductive science applied to a living system. Living systems are very cyclical. They're not super scalable. They are super replicable. You can have more of them. So this is finally getting back to your question about feeding LA.
Yeah.
All right. So we have, for the last 80 years, been feeding bigger and bigger and bigger cities using the factory model, applying that reductive science to a living system, and it had unintended consequences. Well, some of us think we probably ought not do that so much anymore. And if we do, then we need to move towards treating that cyclical biome, your body or farm, in a manner that is favorable to the cycles of nature. because those cycles of nature are essential, and they must all work together to have your body working good or my farm working good. So let's talk about the cycles of nature just a minute. And first, let me tell you that industrial farming breaks the cycles of nature. No species has ever done that before, but it breaks the cycles. You and I are the ape that learned to eat meat, and when we learned to eat meat, we became less apish, and ultimately we became the first species to really get good at technology. So we applied the technology to this system, this cyclical system, and broke the cycles of nature. Now, the cycles of nature, to me, are the water cycle, the carbon cycle, the mineral cycle, the microbial cycle, energy cycle. It's probably a lot more that we don't recognize. And when we broke the cycles of nature using those industrial tools, we ceased to produce that abundance. That 1 + 1 is 3, that symbiosis, you mentioned symbiosis earlier. Mm-hmm. So that's what's important to us in my space, is that we restart these cycles of nature. And there's a you don't use reductive science, you use experiential wisdom. It's like the opposite of, or not the opposite, but the other side of reductionist science. And we're able to restart the cycles of nature. That's what I've done on my farm. And could you please show that water video for me, please? This is one cycle of nature, but I want to talk a little bit about how they all tie together.
And is this your farm?
It is my farm.
Okay.
Well, it's my farm and a neighbor's. That's coming off my farm, and that's coming off a neighbor's farm. You see that?
Oh, boy. So your farm, the water runoff is clear.
All right.
Their farm, the water runoff is a very muddy, dark brown.
Georgia, White Oak Pastures.
That's crazy.
So what we're seeing is there's
a lot of reason for that.
Pivot of corn.
Make Spencer shut up if you don't mind.
What's up?
So that water, that's my neighbor.
Right.
That's across the road from White Oak Pastures. Mm-hmm. And they're good. They're good people. They're fine people. They're my relatives. They're good people. But they farm their land very conventionally, or someone does.
So what is in that water that's causing it to be that color?
Well, there's no good news, but the good news is subsoil. The topsoil is gone. Topsoil is
because of the way they've been running their farm.
Yeah.